Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Garnett Weber. As one of the co-founders of Itrex, I have been involved with online qualitative for over 20 years, and I can honestly say the last 6 weeks has been a unique experience. I have the utmost respect for the research industry in seeing all of the collaboration and pivoting to accommodate the rapid changes required. We have had the opportunity to work with numerous researchers to shift projects designed for face-to-face interactions to online environments to accommodate social distancing. Initially, in many cases, we were supporting researchers to emulate the original project plans as closely as possible. But now that everyone's had a moment to adjust to the new environment, my colleague Kathy Fitzpatrick and I thought it would be helpful to have some sessions to discuss how to design and plan projects specifically for online environments and to expand the horizons of what's possible with online research. This is a 3-part webinar series, and we will have weekly sessions for 3 weeks every Thursday at noon Eastern Time. During the series, we will cover the various methods of conducting online qual and talk about planning each method specifically. During our first session today, my colleague Kathy will introduce general considerations for planning, designing, and executing online qualitative projects. During the second half of the webinar today, Kathy will discuss specific considerations for online discussion board focus groups. All right, so let's get started. Kathy Fitzpatrick brings with her an impressive career in market research and extensive experience ranging from research design and field operations to client relationship management. She obtained a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Elmhurst College in Illinois. Kathy has a vast understanding of research methodologies within both qualitative and quantitative using online technology and traditional technologies as well as video-based research. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of this busy place we all find ourselves. I appreciate you taking the time today to spend it with us. I thought what we'd start with would be a very general background. We don't want this to get too deep and too tied into Itrex as much as we want it to be about online research, online design, online methodology, and how you best connect with your clients, or if you are the client, how you best work with your researchers to achieve the insights that you're looking for. Itrex is an independent and very innovative market research technology company. For those of you who are not yet familiar with us, we developed the very first version of the online focus groups in 1999, way back in the day, evolved significantly since that point. We are one of the industry leaders in mobile qualitative and advanced video-based research. We do have a full suite of qualitative platforms, including client viewing rooms. And what makes us special in my mind is that we regularly engage with our users to feed and fuel the software innovation process. So we're not just, here we are, take us or leave us. We really work long and hard with our clients to make sure we're meeting their needs, and we're very flexible as it relates to that. To give you an idea and a sense of qualitative market research software, these are the platforms that we offer and are pretty much very standard in the online industry. There are telephone interviews, there are video chats and video IDIs, there are chat platforms where they're keyboard or text driven, there are longitudinal asynchronous bulletin board platforms, and then of course using the same type of structure longer term with more participants that could be more suitable to a community environment. Our goal is to make it easy for all parties to participate in online and mobile qualitative research, which seems like a really simplistic statement. However, it's a pretty terrorizing statement if you're new to online qual and you need to move to online qual in a very quick time frame. We built the products that you would see at Itrex based off of our own experience in hosting them. We have tried to make sure that we focus on everyone's needs, the researchers, the moderators, the clients, and probably most importantly, the participant experience. It also allows new research to be conducted that wasn't possible before using more traditional methods. We'll get into that in just a bit. Before we get started, I want to make sure that I communicate with all of you. This is not going to be a presentation filled with charts and graphs and fancy things. It's really more of a deeper conversation, if you will, about how you design, how you look at qualitative research and move it to the online world. So I thought I'd start out with a slide that I actually got from Jonathan Tay with Dynata, who had something similar to this, and I thought it was well worth repeating here as we start this discussion today. Who's driving your online qual needs? Think about that for a minute. Is it your owner or the CEO of your company? Is it the CTO, whom we all know love technology? Is it the COO, the operations person, looking at ways to make things run more smoothly? Is it your own moderators, whether you're independent moderator, whether you're part of a moderating team at a bigger company? You know, are you the ones driving these needs? Is it your clients? Is it the brand owner if you're from an end user company? I'm going to guess this last bullet point is the one it probably really is. COVID-19. We all have come a long way, as Garnet mentioned, in the past 6 to 8 weeks, where there has been this tumultuous upheaval in our industry because of the global pandemic. What are we doing? How are we doing it? What do clients want to do? How do they want us to do it? It's all crashing down on us as researchers to muddle through it and figure out a way to meet client demand, meet our objectives, and still at the end of the day, have a deliverable back to our clients that we're very proud of and that we've really taken a great deal of time to think through, given how new this might be to all of you. I'm assuming that there are some people here today who are extraordinarily familiar with online qual. There are probably some people who are not as familiar with it and are struggling to catch up and feel a little lost in the world of online qual. And today we're hoping to help you through the storm. We're all in the storm together. I love this statement that we're all in the storm, but we're not all in the same boat, are we? Everybody's boat is different. Everybody's boat has different people on it. And what it is our job to do is really understand who is on the boat with me and how do I best support my clients and my organization to get through, and perhaps more importantly, not just get through it. How do I take this opportunity to do what's on the right-hand side, learn how to dance in the rain? How do I take our new online qual to the level where it's an embraced part of our culture and enable our clients to benefit from this and be able to take a step back and realize that there's a lot of things you can do in online qual now that perhaps either you were not able to do in the past, or because most of your work has been in person, you're just not aware of. So today, what I'd like to do is take some time to investigate and go through what the things are that you need to think about. This is not a webinar that's designed to dive you deep into a platform, show you bells and whistles and how you can do drag and drops and how you can do all these different things. We can certainly set up in-depth demos for anybody who wants to see that. The purpose of this webinar is really to get you to take a step back and think about your design. Think about the things that you need to talk to your client about as you're tailoring and designing the research project. As you enter into the design and planning phase, what do you need to do? What do you need to consider? What kinds of questions do you need to ask? What do you need to learn? What I'm going to offer up are some of my thoughts. It's not the be-all laundry list. I think we all, as researchers in the qualitative environment, can add things to this list that'll pop into your mind. More than happy to have you enter those in, even if it's not a Q&A. It might be your thought, because we can compile all those things and share them out after the webinar is complete. So please don't feel like I'm the all expert on this. It is just a thought process that's tailored to help you help your clients get to the desired results. That being said, the first thing you do need to know are the different types of methodologies that are available in online qual. Obviously, there's video chat and video IDIs. I might even throw in telephone IDIs into that area. Those are real time. They're engaging with a person either via video or via telephone audio. Moderator connects with that person in that environment. Then you have text-driven chats. Text-driven chats are keyboard-driven. They are usually with bigger groups of people. They're usually conducted when you need some concept markups or some quick polling questions. So it's less about deep diving and more about a broad understanding across a bigger group of people. And then there are bulletin boards. Bulletin boards can be, we can enable video data collection. You can engage participants with one another, with a moderator, and all of these platforms have back rooms for your clients so that clients can indeed engage with one another and with your moderators. So when we think about this, we think about the 4 user types, and these may be a little odd to you. You know, we have moderators and researchers, correct? We have agencies and research companies. We have brand or end users. But equally importantly, when you're thinking about who you are in this user group, we always need to come back to the fact that there are participants. Who are they? What's their world? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? You know, who are they? What do you want to learn from them? Because that will help you decide which methodology you might feel is the best moving forward. You know, you could put out a set of specs to 4 different researchers and perhaps come back with 4 different designs. So needing to take a step back and think about what those parameters might be in the scope of the project is very important so that you as the researcher can dive in. So let's talk a little bit about research objective design. Garnett, I think that, you know, to make this as interactive as possible, if there are questions that come up during the screen that I'm on or something that we're sharing, let me know and we can address those as we move through the webinar today. So feel free to.
Yeah, there's that, just to let everyone know, there's a chat area at the bottom of your GoToWebinar panel. Please feel free to add questions as we go into that area.
Perfect. And again, it doesn't maybe necessarily have to be a question. It might be a statement of something that you consider as well. When you're looking at your research objectives and the design, there's ways to think about this that I hearken back to. Let's take a step and think about how in online qual, it might emulate to a degree a quantitative build. And I say that because nowadays within online qual, you can build a data set. Depending upon the methodology that you choose, the way you build that data set might be a bit different. But it goes far beyond, back in the day when I was a moderator, and that's what I did. I was writing reports and listening to tapes and CDs on my devices when I was up in the airplane traveling from city to city and taking notes and starting to formulate the stories, trying to formulate what I'm hearing. Those days can be behind you by thinking about your qualitative endeavor in a quantitative way. And I know that is a little weird to think about, but think about what you want to end up with. So think about who am I looking at? What are the segments? Who are the people? What are the qualifiers? When I get to my analysis, when I know what my research is asking me for and the story that's kind of unfolding, is there brand consideration? Is there geography consideration? All those things you should be thinking about, kind of making a list in either on paper, on your computer, in your mind, whatever it might be, so that when you get done thinking about what the objectives are, you can then sort of move forward. So now you know where you want to end. I want to be able to compare my participants from one geography to another. I want to look at it by age. I want to look at it by male versus female. I want to be able to filter. I want to be able to understand. I want to be able to take video. I want some video there. So depending upon all of those things that are in your mind of what you can do now, you'll be able to then decide upon the methodology that will work the best for that specific project. So you may even want to think of your client engagement. How engaged is your client? How much do they know about online qual? Do they realize the time and effort that goes into it to yield this deep, rich report that you as the moderator or researcher will be generating from the data that you collect? What are the benefits of using online qual to your clients and recommendations for transitioning? So we're going to cover those points in more depth and give you some tips and clues about what you can think about. So we kind of talked about what insights you're wanting to learn. Who is it that you're speaking to? What is the end result that your client is looking to understand? What is going to be the decision-making factors in terms of what are they going to do with the data? What decisions are they going to be making? What kinds of support do you need to provide them to make those decisions? I'm going to talk a little bit here now about how and why we kind of came to bringing this webinar to life for all of you. About 6 or 8 weeks ago, we here at Itrex, and I'm sure many of the other technology providers, were inundated with requests over and over from new clients, existing clients, and clients for video chat. And the reason was because what they were going to do was an in-person focus group. And so some of those requests had to remain as an in-person focus group because there was not a whole lot of time for decisions to be made to change things. As we're settling into all this, and as we're beginning to understand what you can and cannot do with online qual, you have an opportunity here. You have the opportunity to go to your client and understand why they're asking for a video chat. If the answer is because that's what we've always done, but we've only ever done it in person, so the best and closest thing we have to in person is video chat. So that's what I want to do. All right, so as the researcher, we're all into this because we love research, right? So we take a step back and say, okay, let's talk about what you want to learn as a result of this engagement. Talk to them about differences that they can create if they move away from just the video chat. Does a bulletin board make more sense? Would they get more out of the experience by having a longitudinal asynchronous approach, as the moderator, being able to get into the head of the participant, getting them to engage with one another? So asking specific questions to your client about why they think video chat is the way to go minimally will help you solidify that perhaps it is. But it also might lead you to a really great conversation with your clients about what their expectations are, maybe yielding even a bigger conversation or a higher level one as it relates to how are we moving forward. We all have those clients we work with all the time. We have new clients coming in. So being able to look at it with them holistically and help your client understand the possibilities now is really an engagement on your end that will help you build your businesses as well. So kind of going through that video chat discussion with your client is a really important step to take and will help guide you as you decide what methodology would indeed be the best for your project. Looking at things like, who are you looking to engage? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Are we looking at mothers? Are we looking at families? Are we looking at shoppers? Think about those things as well with your client and let your creative juices start flowing. If you are able to connect with people in a different way than just having them show up at a focus group facility, what kinds of things would you want to learn? What kinds of things could you learn? So our behavior you can then again take a step towards one of the methodologies that would be best suited to get those answers. Is engagement between participants critical? Should you think about doing video IDIs? Should you think about perhaps even chat where the engagement might not be quite as high? Do you want to look at a board where people are continually engaged with one another and the moderator over time? And then, of course, back to the beginning, what will be done with the findings? What is your client intending to do? What decisions are they expecting to make? And I would argue that with your final report being richer, full of insights, because the design work you did up front will yield results that will create a nice data set for you to tell the story. So you need to spend time, as I just pointed out, considering the design and the methodology, going back, starting at the end, moving backwards or forwards, however you want to look at that, determining whether it needs to be real time, does it need to be longitudinal, should behavioral data be added, then thinking, does a blended design add depth? Do you want to take a step back yet again and say, hey, yeah, I see that we probably would love to have video chat, but prior to going into the video chat, I want to get some information about my participant. We need to always remember the participant. And I think it's important to connect as the moderator with participants during and even before the actual event happens. You can do that by conducting homework. So before your video chat begins, every person invited, all 15 or 20, however many you have involved, over the course of a couple of chats. So you're doing video chat, you're probably looking at 7 or 8 people per chat. But having them go through homework exercises, you can have them upload a video telling you who they are, what their family life is like, answer questions that are related to the scope of your project, enabling you as the moderator Some moderators even go to the length of creating a document prior to the start of their sessions that would be something like meet your participant. And what they've done is had homework or telephone calls or something with the participants prior to the video chat beginning, or even a real-time text-driven chat that would enable the client to say, here are the 7 people, here are the 8 people that are going to be in this group, and here's Kathy, and she's, you know, lives in Illinois and she loves to go to Costco, and, you know, maybe even here's a brief shot of her shopping during the shelter at home, you know, going out with her mask on, etc. So getting some kind of in-depth insight about your participants prior to the start of the event is always a really good thing to do if you have the time. I realize, as we all do, that you don't always have this time, but it's important to remember that your clients, at least for the short time, are not going to be in person. They're going to be logging in. You know, if there are facilities that are opened, it's going to be a very different experience for them. So enabling that to happen by rolling up the sleeves and diving into your participants even before the main event, so to speak, is an extraordinarily valuable thing to do when you have the time to do it. Think about the process now. You know, think about, okay, so maybe I consider to my clients or propose to my clients that we start with video chats, and then from those video chats, we select a certain portion of them to roll into a one-on-one. You can do that the opposite way, start with one-on-ones and then have groups. So think about how you would like this process to roll with your design. What are you looking to share? What are you looking to learn? And then, of course, always working with your tech supplier to better understand the options that you have available to you. Anything that we need to address, Garnett? Or are we good to keep moving? I think she's on mute. And I think
sorry, there was a question. How do you get the information about the respondents in advance? Is it a call or an email?
That's a great question. And I think I don't know that there's a singular answer to that. Generally speaking, depending upon whom you use to engage and recruit your participants, they would be recruited using a screener, much like you would do for any market research event. Some of those recruiting processes can be conducted online, making sure you're building in an articulation screen, perhaps adding, you know, can you please upload a video to this screener so that, you know, we can see who you are and how comfortable you are using technology, you know, however we build that out. There are other times, depending upon who the recruit is, that you might want to do telephone recruiting. I think what you need to do is be very clear to the company that you're working with how you want that recruit to occur. Do you want it? Is it okay that it's online? Or would you prefer a telephone recruit? Very typically, qualitative recruits can be thought of as a telephone recruit. Nowadays, with the ability for us to get people to upload videos, you know, we can help you build your screening questions so that the right person is recruited. You can do it either way, depending upon your topic and who it is you're recruiting. I hope that answered the question.
Great, thanks, Kathy.
Okay. So let's talk for a minute here about client engagement considerations. You all have clients, they have maybe all of them, some of them have come to you and said, hey, we were going to do all these focus groups and now we can't because half my facilities aren't open, or I need 12 people, or whatever their reasons are. They might be in a panic. They might be looking to you for some guidance, and just throw it all in your lap and say, good, you take care of this for me. And really, it's not, as you are all aware, that's not really what happens. That's not really how it all unfolds. There's benefits to your client that I think they really need to know and they need to understand. They will have a great observation experience this is very specific to Itrex, but in our Itrex video IDI, there is a webcam enabled back room, enabling your clients to connect with one another for pre and post briefings, being able to chat with one another as the interview is proceeding, or the moderator can turn that off and let them just listen and then turn it back on. There are observation chat rooms for text chat, for group video chats. There are comment areas for boards, helping your client understand that this isn't time off for them. When you think about qualitative in person, we all know that the clients get on an airplane, they travel to a city, they book into their hotels, they all go to the facility, they have lunch, they have dinner, they chit chat with one another, they watch the sessions. So there's a great deal of time commitment on their part. Doing something online does not mean that they don't have any of that commitment. It's just conducted in a different way. So as the researcher, you need to make sure that you're engaging the client, because you still want them, you want their involvement, you want them to feel like they're part of this project, even though they're not physically there with you. So encouraging their participation, be like the school teacher, make sure they know today is the day that we're launching our board, or today is the day that we're doing our first video chat. Let's have a meeting beforehand. Let's do our pre-brief. Let's discuss the results that we got, making sure that you're connected to your client and not feeling like, oh, it's online so they can just log in whenever. You still need to own that part of it, and you still need to make sure that you're encouraging them to stay very involved. It does. Most platforms will allow for real-time feedback from client observers to the moderator, so that you will get that feedback as the project is going on. So whether you're in a one-on-one or whether you're with a group or in a chat, you'll be able to hear from your client vis-a-vis the back room, where they'll tell you, hey, we had no idea this was how they felt. Dive into that, change this. All of these things, much like when you're in person, can be accomplished online as well. It also allows for you to have that relationship building opportunity by engaging your client. If you're doing a board, or if you're doing video IDIs, or you've done a couple of group sessions, use clipping, coding, and editing. Drop some things in an email, send it out to the team, whether it's something funny that somebody said, something deeply insightful, somebody started crying. You never know what your participants are going to do and how they're going to respond. Sharing that with your client, getting them engaged, is extremely important to the success, and it gets them excited about what they're going to be getting, what their report's going to be like, because you've kept them in the loop. Having daily briefings with them. We have some clients who every morning have a quick meeting. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's today's schedule. Here's who's listening to this. Here's who's doing that. Kind of enable them to be organized, because it's not like they're just sitting in a back room and you've got your guide and they just listen, and you're recording it and then you're going to give a report at the end. There's a lot more, and I don't want to make this sound overwhelming. It's not, but it's just the way you plan things is important. Keeping people engaged is important. And it also allows for fluidity and being able to change questions as the research progresses. So if you keep that client engaged and you start hearing different things based to geography, based to age, based to gender, product usage, whatever it might be, you no longer have to say, oh, geez, too bad I missed those people, because let's say you're in a board. You can go back in and you can ask that question. Oops. So what are the challenges? What are the obstacles for online design compared to in-person? Inexperience seems to us to be the biggest flag right now. People are being pushed into this, and I don't mean that negatively. I mean that, you're used to doing something, you've built your business, you're a qualitative moderator, the bulk of what you do is perhaps in person. So your inexperience with online makes it a little scary. I don't know technology. I'm afraid I'm going to get lost, or I don't want to look stupid to my client. Make sure that when you're engaging with technology, that your technology provider is with you. They're with you every step of the way. They're providing training. They're helping you understand how to create a great guide. You'll use your moderator skill set like you've never used it before, and you'll be excited by the things that you can do. But writing a guide online is a bit different than writing for it in person. So asking for examples, asking for somebody, a quick conversation with somebody on the provider side that can help is never too much to ask. Making sure that you're finding and recruiting the best and most articulate participants can be a challenge. Making sure that the screener is generated that covers all of the things that you're looking for, making sure that somehow you include articulation, how engaged people will be. We want to make sure that they're comfortable speaking with and talking with others in an online world. Some people are a little concerned about the challenges. How do I control those participants in a video chat? How do I keep order? Understanding how to use that, put your hand up, giving an explanation when you start. As long as you put ground rules out, I'm sure we've all been in Zoom meetings with our families and everybody's talking over everybody. So there's like 7 conversations happening, and sorry, setting ground rules, who speaks, when they speak, and how they are given permission, so to speak, to be next in line to speak. It's all important stuff. You just can't jump in and start going and hope everybody shuts up if somebody else is speaking. So setting those parameters will really help. You'll also be able to view participants in their environment. So that's not really so much a challenge as it is perhaps a benefit. People will be chatting, talking with you. They'll be in their own environment, and that's kind of a fun thing to see. And then, of course, there will be lots of data to sort through during the analysis. All right. I want to make sure that I'm doing a time check here, because I do want to get you into the part of the methodology today we want to discuss is Bulletin Board. So the benefits, we'll have this available to you, but I want to make sure we get to that point. So benefits of using online qual, if you're looking at a focus group in person, a lot of what you collect is recall data. I mean, we're all aware of it. What did you do when this happened? What do you plan to do next? You're not getting the in the moment that you can really get from online qualitative. The next is creating video highlight reels. You can create video highlight reels specific to coded categories, segments, participant specs, etc., so that when you collect this data set, that you will be able to go back and say, rather than just a feeling you had that more men or more women liked or didn't like something. You can run things concurrently or consecutively. This again is to better understand differences, adapt to geography, category segments. Blended methodologies, of course, we talked about that earlier, can add depth and value. And then you can also use mobile with everything, I think, except video chat. Video chat is not really a good method to use on a mobile device because the landscape on your mobile devices just not big enough to have 7 people show up. Okay, so recommendations for transitioning to online methods, initial close communications, train your team, use provider support for the first few projects until you learn and are comfortable and can become more DIY if you want to. Most importantly, it is asking questions. I think what I'm going to do is jump through this. We'll send this deck to you, but I want to make sure we get into the actual board and show you some of the things. A moment of terror for people is there's so much data. What do I do with all this data? Weeding through the data, understanding what the story is. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how that happens, because it can lead to this moment of delight. It can lead to when success is when the online goes right. You know, you have video, you have insights, you have audio materials so that your findings and your report are next level, if you will. All right, I'm hoping you can all see my screen. And we're going to kind of go through this bulletin board. So this is just a look at the bulletin board methodology now. So we're going to go into, hopefully it's not going to, yep, there we go. The bulletin board and kind of show you, I'm not showing you bells and whistles here. I'm showing you design. I'm showing you data, how you build data sets, etc. So this would just be the simple homepage. This is from a researcher perspective, and you get to see what the questions were, who's been participating. Importantly, in the beginning, as you and your clients move into online, who logged in to observe, who's not been there at all. So, you know, you can kind of play teacher a little bit here and say, you know, you were going to log in and look at this data yesterday and you didn't. So keeping them committed is a good thing for you to do. Then you'll have your discussion. So this discussion will be created by you, and your client will be programmed in, and you'll have many different ways to collect data over the course of several days in field. So typically 3 days, could be longer if you're looking for behavioral data, shopping, ethnographic data. Those things can all be generated and collected over longer periods of time. So this is what your guide might look like. As a researcher, we can jump around from spot to spot. Your participants cannot do that. You will decide how they move forward when you set up your discussion guide. So if we look at that really quickly, what I want to show you here, again, this is all based back to the design. You know, what do I want to know? What can I do? And what shall I do when I design these? First would be, and foremost, drives the entire project, is deciding on your question mode. And there are 3 ways to do that. You can do regular mode. Of course, when your people come in, you know, hello, how are you? What are you doing? You know, that general stuff that is not data. You know, it's really making people feel comfortable. You don't care if they read everything that everybody said before they reply. That's regular mode. More importantly, and most frequently, is researchers use uninfluenced mode. In the uninfluenced mode, you're going to have participants come in, they'll see the question or the activity request, they will post their reply. When they post their reply, they will then see everyone else's responses as to the same question. So they're not influenced by what other people had to say. It's an important thing to remember. And then finally, interview mode. A project can be conducted entirely in interview mode. You can have certain days or certain questions posed in interview mode. And that simply means that it's between the moderator and the participant. Observers can see it. Participants cannot see what the observers are commenting, but they will definitely not have interaction with other people in an interview style question. This is used when you have sensitive topics. You're talking about finances, you're talking about an illness, you're talking about perhaps some intimate family things that you want to know about that you're pretty sure they don't want the whole board to know about. So again, if you're doing a diary and ethnography, probably the whole thing would be in interview mode, because the purpose of the research isn't to get engagement. The purpose of the research is to understand that specific person and what they are doing. So it's important to know that, this is all deeper than we want to go today. So we go back to the discussion. One of the things I wanted to make sure that you were aware of, again, in building a data set, you can use polling style questions. You can use just plain Q&A. Let's say you want to embed video. I think video is always important. So when you have video, the participant would, let's see if I can do this without, there we go. So you'll be able to see and hear what the participant is saying. What you're going to do is come in, and this goes now to creating your data set. Remember when we talked earlier about how am I going to create this data? What am I going to do? How am I going to get a good report back to my client? So you're going to take them into, let's say, a video exercise, and you're going to ask them a specific video question. They certainly can reply without video. Okay, so let's stop that. We're going to create a tag. Again, think about this in a quant way. If you're having open-ended questions, you need to have a master coding plan. So before the project starts, you can come in based your hypotheses and create as many categories as you want, or codes, so to speak, or you can do it on the fly as you're listening and hearing what people have to say. But pay attention to this line, because it's going to matter in just a second when I take you to the reporting part. Here you go. Okay, so now it's green, but really what she had to say there was a little negative. So now it's red. I can type in a description of why I felt that way. So in case somebody from my team comes in, I can also look at and do it via timestamp if I need to. I am not going to save this because we're going to go back now into reporting. I'm going to show you this really quickly, and then we're going to get into the transcript. So here are all the clips that you may have created for a specific project. And now you want to create something for your client, for a quick email, for part of the report. So here's where it's exciting, because you can use this to filter through your data. You can look at it by comment type, you can look at it by category, by specific brand users, by all males or all females, whatever you want. For today, I'm just going to select negative, and all my negative clips will come up. And then all I have to do is drag and drop them onto the playlist and say, these are the 4 that I love. I can click on view and watch it, and then create it. It will download it, and then I can drag and drop it into a report or into an email, whatever you're kind of deciding you want to do. Then the transcripts are another way for you to look at data sets, and how am I going to take all this data that I've collected and make sense of it? What's my report going to look like? So when you come into this, you're going to be able to make selections and filter your data. So we're going to include all the moderator statements. We're going to include the post times. You have a choice of looking at it in Word or in Excel. Then you can select participants. So you can either have everybody, you can select a certain group, You can select certain segments, so millennials versus Gen Xers, or boomers versus millennials, whatever it might be. You can select particular questions, certain posts, but you always want to mark that you want all the notes included, because this is a living document. Once we export the transcript, if you log in once every 24 hours, your transcript will be a document that you can actually write your report from. You don't have to keep bouncing back into the board itself. You'll see you can look at it with a navigation pane. It would have your brand here. But what I wanted to show you is that all of your notes, oh, they're not showing up. Let's see if yep, there we go. So if you remember, we use this clip right here to generate this video. We use to generate a quick clip. You can do that, and then in the actual transcript, you can see what was said, why it was said, great for final report. So all of those things can then be determined by looking at the actual transcript. So I think that takes us to let me put this back into this. There we go. So final tips for the board: make your guide as user-friendly as you can. Award appropriate incentives. That's always something to think about when you're creating online qual. What is the appropriate incentive? You can take recommendations from your recruiter, from your tech support people. What's the general rule of thumb for your incentives? That will depend on how long the session is, how many days are they going to be asked to participate, what are we asking them to do? We're asking them to take us out into the store now, might cost you a little bit more. So think about those things, make sure the incentive is appropriate. Have days when no questions are posted. Have days where the moderator comes in and says, hey, Kathy just made a great statement about this. Please, let's all jump into that. Let's react. What do you think? How do you think, etc. Encourage your participants to use the video whenever you can. That's really well done when you, as the professional, use video to ask questions. So using your video is equally important as to having and asking your participants to do so. And I think that about wraps it up. I think we have a little less than 10 minutes or any questions, or you have some time back in your day. Do we have questions, Garnett, that I need to answer?
Yeah, you bet. We've got some great questions here, and feel free to enter more questions into the bottom of the GoToWebinar panel. All right, so question here, can we play the video when we download the transcript in Word? And how is the quality of the images when you download the transcripts, like when the participants attach the images through their posts in the board?
Yes, when you have that Word document opened, let me see if I closed it entirely. I think I might have closed it, but yeah, that's a living, breathing document. So your video will be right there in the Word document. So you'll be able to click on that icon or that thumbnail, and your video will play that the participants submitted back to you. We do use high def in board. I believe, Grant, you might know better than I do what the quality of the video back is, but it's fairly good. I'm not sure if I know the details.
Yeah, the question was around images. So participants can make a response, and they can attach media, maybe on their phone. They've got some images, or maybe on their computer. And those image quality, they should be the same quality as they took. So it'll depend on the quality of their camera on their phone.
Yeah.
Great. So can you give us examples on types of studies we can use text chat effectively, and what is the ideal number of participants for a text chat?
Well, that's a great question. And the answer is there's a wide range of projects that chat is really good for. I think chat is really good when you don't want to do a deep dive, because typically you have between 15 and 20 people in a chat. So if your chat's going to go for 90 minutes, you can understand why you can't go really, really deep with 15 or 20 people during that time frame. But what you can do is collect really good polling questions. You can expose concepts. You can have them do concept markups. So if you have a concept test, chat is a great way to go. You don't really so much care about facial, emotional things. You just want them to look at a concept and mark it up and submit it. You can show aggregated results of those markups. You can have them submit images. You can have them reply to polling style questions. It's really designed for more of a Q&A than it is open-ended discussions with feelings and emotions. Because remember this, you also get a ton of data in a chat. And that's because, think about it, in a video chat, or even in person, everybody has to take their turn. They all have to put their hand up, or it's their turn to speak and share. In a chat, the moderator asks a question, or the moderator poses a polling style question and then has an open end, and everybody's fast and furiously typing away their answers, clicking on boxes and submitting. So the moderator is going to have a ton of information coming in all at one time, which is a good time to consider how many people you want to have in that chat. 15 or 20 seems to be a reasonable number for most people to handle. But if you have a ton of interaction back and forth, you might want to have a secondary moderator that will manage some of that for you. I hope that answered the question.
But yes, there's a question here: can transcripts be done in French? And absolutely, the board is offered in 17 different languages, so it'll be in the language of the board. And does Itrex offer training in online qual? Absolutely. All of the training is included free of charge. So Kathy, can you explain what transcript export formats are best for what uses? Example, when to use Word versus Excel response grid.
I think it's personal choice. Most of my clients do both. So they will download in Word, read through it, look at the notes that were taken, look at the videos that were created, because in Excel, you're not going to have the video. In Excel, you're going to have responses. So that's good for when you're grouping like answers together. So you're kind of formulating this data set. You can run the Excel in looking at male versus female, looking at ages, looking at geographies, or if you recruited back to some sort of an opinion or a scale, like the people who are included need to say 8 or 9 or 9 or 10 on a 10-point scale on questions 5 or 7, and they're included. Whatever those qualifying questions might be, you might want to come back to in your analysis and say, okay, the people that answered positively or negatively, whatever it is, to that question, I want to look at those people versus people who answered 10s, etc. So the answer is probably you're going to want to do it in both to begin with, and then see which way is most comfortable for you as you do your analysis. But generally, Word will give you that feel, that flavor. You can read it all, hear it all, listen to it, and then Excel will drive you into the numbers more.
Great. Okay, and then just a couple last questions. So where's the data stored? Itrex has a secure, our files are all in a secure data center in Chicago, Illinois. It is HIPAA compliant and has numerous security features to keep that.
And GDPR, we are GDPR compliant as well.
Right. And the last question, what is the best method for deep dives? And my personal opinion would be the board that Kathy provided, because it gives participants the time to reflect and provide those in-depth responses in their time, where some of the real-time methods, you have to compress it to keep everything on time. So we are at the end of our time today. Thank you so much for the presentation, Kathy. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time. I'd like to mention that we have 2 more webinars coming up in our series. So next week, same time, we will be talking about planning, designing, and executing online video focus groups and telephone interviews and video interviews. So we'll go into depth on the design aspect of those. On June 4th, 2 weeks from today, we'll be going into the planning, design, and execution of online chat focus groups and online intercept studies, as well as live event research. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, and as you exit, there is a quick survey to complete to give us feedback and help us for new topics going forward.